Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Well, we've got some pre-orders this week. Some things we've already looked at, but a couple that I haven't actually shown here on the channel, so I thought we'd go through some of that. But it's looking pretty cool. You know, we've got a little bit of AOS, we've got a little bit of Horus Heresy even, and some books and so on, so I guess we should get into it. So a massive Battle Box sees an Ancient Grudge reignited in this week's Sunday preview. Yep, so we've already looked at this before, but they're going to be putting up the pre-order this weekend. So, you know, the usual deal. We've got the box. And yeah, well, this actually comes with... Do these boxes normally come with this, with a core rulebook? That's pretty cool. I don't know if that's a usual thing. Has that been in all of them? I'm not sure. But that's actually quite nice. That's good they got that in there. So yeah, you get your two sides. And now it looks like core rules in there, which is nice. So yeah, it looks like it's like you could start playing straight away with this, which is really nice. That's actually a good feature. I haven't noticed that on the other ones. Someone will have to tell me if that's a thing they've been doing, but that's actually very, very good. You know, that's awesome. I can imagine, like, especially for younger you know, people getting into the hobby, that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, it's a nice bunch of models. As I said, we've talked about this before. You know, these Ardent Deacon are pretty tasty for an elf. You know, I've been tempted by them a fair few times looking at their range. But for now, I'm you know, holding my guns. But maybe one day. But it is pretty cool. And obviously, dwarves are cool. They're always fun. So that's great. So you'll be able to pick that up if you're into these. The new models are cool. I talked about them before. We've gone through them, but yeah, look, I like the direction they're going in. I think this is a nice one for the Fire Slayers. You know, a few different design elements going on in this figure that aren't the same as some of the others. That's really cool. I think everyone you know, that likes Fire Slayers would like to see a few variety of different units. Something a little bit that we haven't seen before would be nice for them. And, you know, Idoneth, they've got their look down pat. You know, they've got enough variety. They've got a whole range of different units, which are really, really fun and interesting to paint. A lot of different color schemes you can do. So I think from that point of view, you know, Idoneth players should be pretty happy with this little guy. Maybe it makes those, what are they, these sort of slave units or whatever they are, the ones that they use, maybe it'll make them really cool in the game, who knows. But you know, it's a fun model. I'm not quite sure about the helmet. I think the helmet's a little bit a little bit strange here, but you know, apart from that, I think I'd probably change the head on this guy. I think it'd be cooler with maybe one of the, just like a different kind of head, something, maybe a helmeted head or something like that would be nice for him, rather than this sort of funny derpy helmet thing that he's got on his head. But apart from that, everything is cool. So that's nice. And then we've got this. Now, I never really covered this on the channel before, but Underworlds has this like cool little ogres pirate warband thing with a bunch of animals. I'm a big fan of all this stuff. I love pet classes, you know, little familiars, things like that. If you click the link of the Blight of Gods link in my video description, that's my brand, and I love doing characters with familiars. So pretty much all of my named characters have they're sculptures that I do for my own like 3D printing range and that sort of thing, and they all have their little familiars. In fact, 3 of them have been released on my web store, and I love designing them. They're always fun, right? Because you can add a little bit of humor, you can have them doing fun things. They don't have to be as serious as the main characters. You know, it's great. It gives the sculptor a chance to just muck around, and being a sculptor, I understand that, and you can see here on all of these little familiars that, you know, they're just having fun with them. You know, you got the monkey with the knife. You've got all the classic tropes going on here. A couple of gobos with some like fun little poses. You know, and the parrot doing something fun. You know, like this is just yeah. Whichever sculptor got the design brief for this would have been, you know, having a big grin on their face, because that would have been a nice couple of weeks of mucking around and just having a bit of fun for a bit. And you know, and even the ogre's fun, right? Who doesn't love an ogre in a pirate outfit? I mean, that's you know, that's classic stuff for fantasy, and you know, you're going to have so much fun painting this. I don't know how it plays in Underworlds, but I don't think it really matters. This is just a really cool kit. I may even end up getting this just to paint it for some tutorials on the channel, because, you know, these would just be so fun. You know, you could do all kinds of different paint schemes. Gobbo skin can be anything, so you can do blues, you can do greens, you can do yellows, reds. There's so many different color choices for goblins. They're great. And I mean, you know, the monkey, you could do the same thing on the monkey, do some like really exotic like patterning detailing on the fur, and the same for the bird. So, you know, there's a bunch of potential here. So I think anyone that just loves painting would enjoy these models for sure. So they're cool. I'm sure that they're the same price as the usual warbands, so pretty affordable. I've always said this, the Underworlds thing and everything, you know, whatever you think of the actual game itself, the warbands that they do for this is like pretty amazing. You know, they're really diverse. There's a lot of variety. You know, it adds so much more flavor to Age of Sigmar generally, like just to have all that extra character in there. You know, whether the rules are any good in AOS doesn't really matter. It just gives you a whole range of models that you can add, convert, so on, or just paint, just for the love of painting. I've found them some of the most fun ones to paint so far, like since I've been back in the hobby these last few years. Just, they're always a pleasure. And I think that that's something that's really cool, and I hope it doesn't go away, because you can really tell that the sculptors have a lot of fun with this, as I've said. You know, just very unique little elements and things that you don't normally see. So anyway, that's cool. So then we've got some more little Underworlds paraphernalia there, some Blood Bowl boards, which looks like this one is for a Nurgle one. Okay, so they've been doing this pretty regularly, I've noticed, just doing like themed pictures so you can have for your team, you know, whichever team you've got. This one's now Nurgle. You know, they've done a few. They did one for the what was it like a Dark Elf one or something, the last couple. Anyway, there's been a bunch. And this one's Nurgle, so that's great. And then they've got like some themed dice and everything. You know, that's cool. Like Blood Bowl's awesome. I think you know, anything they add to that game is just always a winner. It's just great. You know, the game itself, you really can't go wrong with it. It's such a fun game. You know, it brings out the worst and the best in people. It's cool, right? So, you know, that's great that they're still supporting it. And then we've got some Imperialis here. I guess another book for maybe campaign missions, that sort of stuff. And we've got some new ships here for Necrons. So, you know, that's cool. This game actually looks pretty good. It definitely reminds me of those old Epic days and Battlefleet Gothic days back in the old times. This game really reminds me of that stuff. So I'm sure it's a fun game, because those games were always good. It was a nice breather from the main games when you just wanted something a little bit, I guess, more, not simpler, just a different vibe, right? A different sort of flavored game that you can just get into that doesn't have as much pressure on it as the main games, and they're always cool. So yeah, I'm sure that's fun for those people that love that. We've got some White Dwarf action there, and then, you know, books and so on that they're bringing out pretty consistently, and then obviously Warhammer Plus. So, you know, all in all, a pretty good bunch of pre-releases this coming week. But I think the sort of the jewel in the rough, as it were, would be definitely the Horus Heresy miniature that's come out, which is pretty cool. So we'll take a look at that. Well, it's you should be able to pre-order it from today. So that's how do you say his name? Jaghatai Khan? Anyway, the Khan, the Primarch for White Scars. I don't know how to say that. I've never really known how to pronounce his name. Someone else can pronounce it right, but the Khan, the Primarch. I can remember the days when White Scars didn't really have much support at all, and, you know, everyone would talk about Primarchs and so on, and it's great to finally see, you know, a fully formed version of their Primarch. That's pretty cool. And he's a fun model. So, you know, like pretty much all of the Horus Heresy stuff, the Forge World ones, their Primarch models are all really, really cool. I really enjoy that range. I think it's a great undertaking that they actually do that. It adds so much more to the lore and background of Warhammer 40k. Obviously, this is in 30k, but you know, just generally speaking, that just adds a lot more, that visualization for the writing and so on, to see these characters, to be able to own them, paint them, and so on. And then, you know, when you follow into 40k, the corrupted versions of the Chaos ones like Mortarion and all that, you know, and any of the good ones that they bring back, like you know, like the ones that they're, I guess, earmarking, like possibly Lionel Johnson and so on, some other ones that they're thinking about bringing back, I guess. Everyone talks about Angron possibly coming back. So there's a whole, you know, it's great how they got that sort of like progression through the history. You know, you get these pre-heresy or heresy to pre-heresy kind of ones, and then you go right through to the end when you get them in their final form. You know, it's almost like Super Saiyan, right? Like Dragon Ball, got these like early versions and then late ones. And yeah, I think that's always really nice. It just really grounds a lot of that story, because, you know, seeing it is much better than just reading about it. You get that more tangible element. I mean, obviously reading about it's cool, but to have that thing in your hand and really see what the Khan actually looks like and all that sort of thing, it's great. So yeah, I like him. It's a little bit static in the pose. Like maybe you could chop that arm and maybe put that on a slight angle. I think maybe might be nice. Apart from that, but that could just be the angle of the photo. It might actually be on an angle, but you just can't tell. In fact, it probably might actually be, because you can see there's a bit of a bow in the photograph there. So maybe this is on an angle. But apart from that, everything else about the figure's nice. We've got like a pretty standard sort of pose. Again, maybe this knee here, it looks a little bit flat straight on, but I don't know whether that's the photo or not. But all the details on him are great, like all of this embossed detail, that's really nice. We're seeing, the little flash symbol on his face. Everything else, the top knot's cool. These little extra details on him. I mean, yeah, that's all fun stuff. I love the cape. I think the cape's a really nice one. It's flowing back around him and so on. I can't see that anyone that loves White Scars wouldn't like this. There's some nice little additional details like these sort of armored plates on here, which sort of, I guess, echoing, our history, of armor design. They're trying to sort of evoke a little bit of that in his power armor, just to bring that historical element to them. I've noticed that on some of these Heresy models, they try to bring a little bit of that in, because I guess the earlier Space Marine armor tends to have a bit more of that sort of medieval, Gothic, or even earlier period sort of elements. You see a little bit of that, some of the plating and the overlapping armor design and so on, the helmets and all of that. They tend to sort of have a bit more stronger design influence from those eras in our history. And that's cool. It's a nice thing that it's sort of situated in that, because you can dig into those ideas, whereas 40K sort of moves past that into sort of, I guess, a more high fantasy, high sci-fi kind of idea, where it's got a bit more anime influence, or that sort of more like ergonomic kind of fluid shapes, and I guess less fixated on historical kind of inspiration, I guess, and more on like shape design itself for its own sake. You notice that a lot, like a lot of anime design does that. They sort of depart from sort of taking from history, and then they kind of just dig into art fundamentals itself in design, and just creating pleasing shapes that interlock and so on, and become these armored mech suits and so on. And you see that there's a danger with those as well, because they can become almost like a cookie cutter sort of repetitive design, and you see that a lot in sort of bodysuits, sci-fi bodysuits, that sort of thing. They all get a bit samey, because the design language, obviously the group of artists that are doing this around the world, we're all kind of interacting and influenced by each other, and so it tends to homogenize a little bit. So that's, I guess, the downside of that type of design compared to, let's say, here with Khan, and sort of drawing a little bit more heavily from historical shapes. You don't fall into that trap as much. You get a few more unique designs. So when you're looking across at all these Primarchs, they tend to have a bit of more of a unique look to them, but not always as pleasing to the eye. Like some of these angular shapes and so on aren't necessarily as fluid or as pleasing as some of the later designs. Like, let's say you might see in Mortarion or something like that in that figure. You're always a give and take with this type of thing. It's a hard thing. It's really hard. As I said, I'm a sculptor. This is a hard journey to go down when you're really trying to come up with iconic designs and beautiful shapes. It's difficult. It takes a lot of energy to really refine that and get something that's really pleasing. But I think they've done a good job. So I'm happy. I'd be definitely happy if I was a White Scars player for sure. I'm sure you could do some conversions for 40K here as well. I don't think anyone would care if you use old Khan here in your 40K army. I'm sure they'd all be fine with it. So then we've got book 8 for Heresy as well. So I'm sure that's good. So all in all, pretty nice little week. I think this is probably the winner out of the lot, I guess. But that Pirate Ogre's a pretty close second, right? So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.